What happens is that every afternoon at 3 o'clock, he asks how many people in the 150 seats have we filled, and she says, oh, 80. And he says, we better send out one of, my name's John Dwyer, but I get JD. He says, you better send out one of JD's stupid text messages. So out goes a text message which says, look, Chef Pierre from the Lobster Cave would like to invite you and your spouse tonight to dinner. Special lobster tail meal for two for $6. But no one leaves for $68. A bottle of water is $25. So they get the $200 a couple out of them. But guess what? The moment she sends that text message out every afternoon, till she walks back into his office 10 minutes later and said, all 150 seats are full.
Hi, John. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, Mark.
Thank you for being here. Welcome to Peak Performance Perspectives, where we help entrepreneurs master health, wealth, and relationships. I must start out by asking you first, what does peak performance mean to you?
I guess I think of Michael Jordan for a start, and I guess anyone who follows any sport would see their hero being the absolute epiphany of peak performance. I really think it's probably ROI, Mark. It doesn't matter whether it happens to be in life or your family or in work, the return on the investment. And I guess I come back to Michael Jordan. He's missed more goals than anyone else on the planet, but he shot more goals than anyone else on the planet. And so therefore peak performance to me is actually return on investment.
Would Michael Jordan be Michael Jordan even with this level of talent if he hadn't taken that many shots?
No, that's the thing. I don't want to start off too motivational or philosophy, but the thing is that we all know that you certainly cannot make it in anything in life unless you keep on persisting. And my mantra is persistence beats intelligence. And my wife says, thank goodness, because she reckons I'm not that intelligent.
You are definitely the person to be talking to. You are a marketing expert, a marketing guru. Your career spans over multiple accomplishments, working with massive brands like Disney and KFC and 7-Eleven. Before we deep dive into anything else, I must start out by asking, given your extensive insight, what's the most common marketing pitfall when it comes to top brands, even at that level?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question, Mark. And it wasn't set up because if it was set up, I'd ask you to ask me that question. Not collecting data. You can go to any restaurant in the world today, and I guarantee you, you'll give them your 50 or 150 or $250, and they won't know who you are, and they'll never be able to contact you again because they didn't collect your data. And there's a company out there that we're all very familiar with called Amazon. And wouldn't you think that we would all take notice of what they've done? They've built a business on data, and they're not the only ones, of course, but you can go into practically any business. And this is moreover the bricks and mortar world, but even you'll be surprised on many websites, there's just no focus on collecting data. And if you collect data, then you can text them, you can email them, you can even phone them. But it's amazing. You wouldn't believe this, Mark. My wife hates going out for dinner with me because I'm the one that picks the cobweb in the corner of the ceiling, and I'll say that the waiter should have a bow tie on and they should be dressed appropriately, and she'll say, for goodness sake, would you just finish your dinner? And we were out the night before last, and the guy asked me what I did, which of course is he shouldn't do that. I said, no, look, I'm in marketing, which means I know everything. You're going to wish you never asked me that. And he said, what do you think about our restaurant? What should we do? I said, you don't collect data. I said, we've been here before. You don't know who we are. We spent probably thousands of dollars here over the last 12 months, but you don't know who we are. And you know what? He said, oh my God, you're right. And shook our hands and let us leave without collecting data.
So if big marketing brands themselves are not collecting data, we understand how small businesses are missing out on a massive scale. Why is it that something so simple is elusive to companies? Why are they not getting it?
I don't know. I think maybe their marketing managers can't spell IQ. It's just ridiculous. McDonald's don't collect data. They have their QR codes so you can scan it, or their apps, which anyone over 45 is not going to play with. They have you waiting in your car, or they have you waiting in the restaurant at McDonald's for a fair amount of time. There's lots of time for them to actually collect data. Let me give you an example, Mark. We have a restaurant. I'm down under, of course, as you can tell by my accent, and we've got clients globally, but we have a client in Melbourne, Australia, called the Lobster Cave. It's a very upmarket restaurant, and nobody leaves for less than $1 a couple. That's a dinner. And he came onto my coaching program, and I looked at what he was spending on online advertising and everything else. It was about $750,000 a year, and he was doing 2 something million. And I said to him, listen, you've got a 150-seat restaurant. How often are you full? And he just said, of course, Friday, Saturday nights pretty close to full, but the rest of the week it's 50%, 40%, 80%. I said, listen, why don't you forget the $750,000 you're spending on online marketing, and why don't we do this? Why don't we give your hostesses, your waitresses, 50 cents for every name and contact detail they get in the restaurant? So when they came up to give you the check at the end of your lunch, she would put 4 pieces of paper, if there was 4 people around the table in front of you, not asking you to go through an app, just the old-fashioned bit of paper about the size of an ace of diamonds and a packet pack of cards, and it would have win dinner for 6 of your friends at the end of the month, give us your name, your email, and your phone number. And he's up to 90,000 people now on his database as a result of that. What waitress is not going to do that when he or she's getting 50 cents per entry? And what happens is that every afternoon at 3 o'clock, he asks how many people in the 150 seats have we filled, and she says, oh, 80. And he says, we better send out one of, my name's John Dwyer, but I get JD. He says, you better send out one of JD's stupid text messages. So out goes the text message which says, look, Chef Pierre from the Lobster Cave would like to invite you and your spouse tonight to dinner. Special lobster tail meal for two for $6. Now, it's pretty close to bait and switch. Excuse the pun. It's a seafood restaurant, bait and switch. But no one leaves for $68. A bottle of water is $25. So they get the $200 a couple out of them. But guess what? The moment she sends that text message out every afternoon to, let's say, 500 people, she walks back into his office 10 minutes later and said, all 150 seats are full. So he fills his restaurant every single night of the year simply by having collected data and then sending out an SMS at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to fill whatever number of empty seats. So simple.
One of the things, some of the simplest ideas, when executed correctly, becomes brilliant ideas. And one of the things that you have revolutionized is incentive based. Even when you talked about helping waitresses collect phone numbers, there was an incentive for them that they get 50 cents per email and phone number they acquire. What is your approach to incentive-based marketing, and how do you think it really makes difference in a company's growth overall?
Mark, it makes a massive difference. If it's the right incentive, it makes a massive difference. It's got to be what we call message to market match. And so McDonald's nailed it 45 years ago when they decided to put a little toy in the Happy Meal. And this guy you're talking to has the Von Trapp family. We've got 6 children, and they're all too old these days for Happy Meals. They've all grown up and left home. But at one stage, we had 6 under 12 in a very noisy car. And the easiest way to keep those kids quiet would, of course, go through the golden arches and get 6 Happy Meals. They didn't eat the hamburger or the fries, and any parent or grandparent watching this or listening to this can relate to this. It was all about the toy. So McDonald's had very cleverly taken our eyes off the price. And Kellogg's have been doing the same thing with their breakfast cereals for 50 years. Amazon do the same thing with their Prime membership club. If you join their Prime membership club, you get free shipping and free movies and all sorts of benefits, free delivery. So the whole idea of these companies using incentives, and that is a reward, is to take your eyes off the price. Because the thing is, if you have a Me Too product, if you've got a solar panel business and your solar panels are much the same as everyone else's, then guess what? You're going to be marketing on price. And it's a race to the bottom. And so what we do is we teach businesses to actually make sure that they do something in terms of a reward to take their prospects' eyes off the price. So we specialize in showing them how to use incentives, not only to take their eyes off the price, but also to make more money.
In theory, offering an incentive sounds so simple, but there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. Can you give an example of something that you encountered where the company thought they were doing good incentive-based marketing, but it wasn't working out, and you had to point out what was wrong, and then you switched it around?
Yeah, no, I can't, Mark. I just wanted to say that because I'm sure that you have guests like me on all the time, and then they waffle on about this wonderful example. I just was looking forward to the time to have a cheeky host like you. You know, I've no idea, Mark. Yeah, Mark, I'm glad, in all seriousness, I'm glad you asked that question because it leads into a case study where I can really boast and show off. There's a bank down under called the Greater Building Society. Now, this is the 2 biggest business in Australia, but they're not Wells Fargo. Okay, so a building society and a credit union, whether it's in America or UK or Europe or in Australia, a credit union or a building society tends to attract working class people. So they're going to be a lot of trades. It might be electricians and plumbers and builders, okay? Whereas a bank tends to attract people with collars and ties. That's just the way it is, all right? Now, this company, although it's a big company, 150th biggest company in Australia, it was a small fry compared to the big banks in Australia, the likes of the Wells Fargo. And so they engaged my services to see if they could actually come up with a way to steal some of the customers from the big banks. And they were marketing their home loans on interest rates. And so they would come on television or social media and say, look, get a home loan from the Greater Building Society and it's 6.2%, okay, whatever it was at the time. And guess what? The big banks would be 6.1% within 5 minutes. They're never going to beat the 40-ton gorilla. It'd be like a little corner store sitting opposite Costco trying to beat Costco on price. It's not going to happen, right? And so I said to them, listen, I'm doing some TV infomercials at the moment for a discount travel company. How about I introduce you guys and you get together and instead of giving away a 1% honeymoon rate, which All banks do. When you go for a home loan or you're going to swap a home loan, they'll give you a 1% break for that first 12 months. So every bank does that. And I said, you're not doing anything different. Why don't you pick up that 1% honeymoon rate and give it to this travel company, and they'll give you a fantastic deal on vacations. And they said, okay, smart Alec, we'll give that a shot. We came on television and radio, online, you name it, and we just said, get a home loan from the Greater Building Society and you'll get a free vacation. Now, in Australia, we call it holiday, same thing, vacation. It went nuts. In the first 3 months, they doubled their home loan business just simply by giving an incentive. Okay, now this was a company that was basically a bank, which it's a pretty boring company. So you can imagine it took a little bit of persuasion to get them across the line, because bankers are not known to be a future Tonight Show host. They're pretty boring. And this thing went nuts. They doubled their home loans in 3 months and they tripled their home loans in 18 months. We're talking billions, not millions. And this idiot who you're talking to charged a consultancy fee instead of a percentage on the increase in home loans. If I charged 0.1%, I would have bought Hawaii, I reckon. I wouldn't have just gone there. And it went nuts. And then about 3 or 4 years into it, we took it to another level. I'm going to do a drum roll show off here, but I got Jerry Seinfeld to do their ads. And I won't bore you with the details, but I convinced George Shapiro, his manager, to convince Jerry to do the ads for this bank down under. I would fly backwards and forwards to New York. And over 3 years, Jerry was the front man for the Building Society. You add Jerry Seinfeld to a free vacation, it's all over. So it took the sales through the stratosphere. Jerry Seinfeld came on television and online and said, get a home loan from the Greater Building Society and get a free vacation. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. I think even if Jerry knew what they made out of him, he probably would have knocked on their door. Yeah.
Oh, we're definitely going to dig into the Jerry Seinfeld story because I know it's a fun story. But before we move on from that, when we're talking about the right type of incentive, is there a formula in your head that you go through when you're working with clients, or is it just the creative talent that you have, that you just come up with something because you have that gift? Could you tell customers or those who are listening to it, what is something they could do to be able to find the right incentive?
Yeah, and thank you for highlighting, Mark, my brilliance, because I'm very shy. I would have never brought that up. Yeah. Look, Mark, I guess I come back to that phrase, message to market match. So therefore, I'm a baby boomer. If I was to walk into a clothing store and buy some clothes and they offered me a skateboard, it would not be a good message to market match. Okay, so you've got to look for something that's going to be a good incentive for that particular target audience. And if it happens to be a female target audience, it may well be that a gift voucher for perfume or gift voucher for some clothing might be okay. But you know what? There are 3 things that never fail. And for whoever's watching or listening to this, they might like to take note of this. Number 1, travel, no question at all. If you provide someone with a free holiday, a free vacation, it doesn't matter whether they've just come back from a vacation and just coming down off the plane. If you give them the chance to take another one, they'll give you a bear hug and go back up the stairs again and take off in the plane. You cannot get enough vacations, but you can get enough microwave ovens. Okay, you can get enough sports. And so therefore the reason that works is because people can't get enough vacations. The second thing that works is dining vouchers. Okay, because let's face it, we all have to eat. And so therefore that's universally appealing to both sexes and all ages. And the third thing that never fails is gas discounts. You call it gas in the US, of course. In the UK and Australia, we call it petrol or fuel. But fuel discounts never fails. I was the marketing manager for it back in my 20s. That's the 1820s, by the way. I was the marketing manager for Woolworths, which is a very big supermarket chain in Australia. And we revolutionized that business by bringing in fuel discounts, gas discounts. And so we would say, look, for every $30 you spend with us, you'll get 4 cents per litre off your petrol. And you went to our petrol stations and you got 4 cents per litre. I know you guys call it gallons, but same thing. And that was incredibly successful. Vacations, dining vouchers, and fuel vouchers. The other thing too that does work, and it comes in a long way forth, is a cinema pass for 2 people. So you give a cinema pass. And why? All of these things, you notice there's a commonality to all of these. They are attractive to both sexes and all ages. And that's what you're looking for. If you've got a target audience that has a wide demographic, then you're looking for an incentive that will suit everyone.
I'm listening to this and I'm working through this. A cinema, a vacation, a dining package. Those are all experiences. Gasoline is a very specific thing because everybody needs it to be able to go from point A to point B. Is it that the experience factor of it that kind of draws your mind into the ideas of what could we be giving them?
Yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, I've done a lot of courses with Disney. In Orlando, they have the Disney University, and a lot of people don't realize this, but they teach people how to run their business like Disney. And when Michael Eisner was running Disney, he set this whole thing up, and everyone thought he was mad because they said, "What? You're going to teach people how to run business like us?" And he said, "Look, they can come in with a camera any day of the week into Disneyland and basically shoot whatever they want. So why don't we actually set up a university, like a college, and we'll teach business owners how to run their business like Disney?" And I've been to quite a few of them. They're just fantastic. The ones that I've been to have been titled People Management. Another one was called Dreaming and Doing, so it shows you how to do this. And the great thing I learned there is that when anybody goes to Disneyland and they come home, they don't talk about Space Mountain or any of the rides first up. Eventually they do, but what they talk about first is, guess what? The experience. And it's Walt Disney made sure that when he created that business, it was all about the holistic experience that you would get in the park or parks throughout the day. And that's really where I've taken this from. My mantra is that if you're going to give something for free to someone, try and make sure it's an experience. Sure, you can give them a product if you want. I'm not saying that's a cardinal sin, but where possible, give them an experience. Can you imagine when you go and fill up your gasoline and then you get to the counter and you think that it's $50, but all of a sudden they say, no, look, it's only $42. You've just got a discount. Yeah, it's a pretty good experience. And likewise, if you go on a vacation, a great experience. If you go to you go to a restaurant and it's on the house because you bought something from somewhere. So yeah, I've followed the Disney mantra there that it's all about the experience.
Which brings us to the wow moments that you create for companies for their customer experience. What are the metrics that are needed to be tracked to be able to understand the success of a specific wow campaign? Because I'm sure you're coming up with different things to see which one is more successful than others.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, in the smaller business sector, businesses doing south of $1 million, it's very difficult to get them to do a lot of R&D, research and development, because they're just too busy running their gymnasium or running their butcher shop or running their landscaping services. The only answer I can give to that is the bigger businesses that we have, and they might be doing 15, 20, 30, $50 million turnover. They will have they've got the resources to do the R&D. The return on investment on the incentive marketing is very easy to track because it's before and after, like it's night and day. And most of the times, if we get the incentive, and again, it's hard to get it wrong when you're giving away something like a vacation, then you will know within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks, within 4 weeks. And it's purely and simply the metric is sales. It's just, there's nothing else that you really need to measure. And it's wonderful, of course, to have an increase in customer happiness and the fact that everyone feels really good about getting an incentive, but really the metric that counts is the cash register. And people say to me, Mark, look, what about branding? And I absolutely support branding. We are my business is called the Institute of Wow. And as that name infers, it's all about wow factors. But the thing is that sometimes you get labeled as not appreciating branding. And I always say, no, not at all. I appreciate the value of Nike and Kellogg's and Toyota, and we buy it because of the brand. But branding becomes irrelevant if no one's buying your product. And we've had plenty of small businesses come to us and say that they've been dealing with advertising agencies who have got them their face on the side of a bus. They've got their brand tagline on the back of a taxi, and they're sponsoring the local netball teams. And I always say, look, I've got 6 kids and I've been to plenty of soccer and netball games of a Saturday morning. And yes, the local butcher did have his phone number on the back of their jerseys because he sponsored them. Not once did I ever see a parent saying, number 6, can you please slow down? I want to get the phone number of the butcher on the back of your... So they fall into this ridiculous vanity metrics where they get home of a night time and say to the family with the children around the table, look, guess what? Daddy's business got 150 likes today. And the children are going, but Daddy, we have no food. And so really the metrics have to be sales. And there's so many people that think that branding should come first. And of course, direct response marketing second. My mantra is most advertising agencies will tell you to get people to fall in love with your brand so they'll taste your product. We flip that. Get them to taste your product so they'll fall in love with your brand.
And I agree 100%. We have so many guests that we have had who are branding experts, and sometimes I never agree with them because a lot of young business owners are going into business, spending thousands of dollars and years trying to create a brand when they literally cannot put food on the table. When at the end of the day, all that really matters is how many sales you have made. So I love that you just shoot straight from the hip and you say how it is. For those who don't understand this, how do you define direct response marketing and why is it effective in driving sales?
My view, and I'm biased because of what our company does, but there's plenty of backup statistics to demonstrate why I should be biased. And that is that direct response, as that name infers, is advertising on Facebook today and getting a result, good or bad, tomorrow. Okay. And as with social media advertising, you must have 5 or 6 or 26 ads lined up on the reserve bench so that if the first one doesn't hit home, then of course in comes number two ad, in comes number three ad, and so forth. And the beauty of the world that we live in these days, as fast as it is, and we all complain about it being too fast, but the brilliant part about it is, compared to back in the old days where you'd put an ad in the Woman's Weekly magazine or whatever it is, and then pray for the next month that people will see your ad and buy your product. If after that first week of that magazine coming out, no one's buying your product, you can't change it. That ad is in that magazine for the next month and money just burning. The beauty of social media, of course, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform it is, if you have an advertisement, a direct response advertisement that's not resulting in sales tomorrow, you whack that off and put number two on very quickly. And that's what we have for all of our clients. We have advertising campaigns whereby they're running 24/7. And if they're not bringing home the bacon tomorrow, another ad hits that platform. And that's direct response marketing. You've got to be nimble, you've got to be fast on your feet, and you've got to have creativity lined up in a row. Because if the first ad doesn't work, you bring in number two. It almost means that it's really hard to fail. If you get it right, it might be your sixth ad or your seventh ad or your eighth ad that brings home the bacon. But because you can do this very quickly over a series of days, it's pretty hard to fail if you've got the right product and the right direct response offer.
Direct response marketing really relies on people taking action. And in a world where it's so extremely crowded with ads, where everybody's vying for everybody's attention to get that click, how do you go about designing a campaign that incentivizes people to take action?
Yeah, good question, Mark. Isn't it funny whenever you do hundreds, if not thousands of these interviews, and I bet you hear that from your guests all the time. Good question, Mark. Wouldn't it be funny one time if someone said, no, that's a bad question, Mark. I can't answer that way.
I can't believe you asked me this again.
That's right. That's right. Because guests are so patronizing. Yeah, good question, mate. But yeah, look, it is a good question, though, is that I come back to a couple of components. Number one, of course, that message to market match. You've got to make sure that you're your target audience. And so therefore you're going to use language that's going to be something that they understand. And the other thing is Elvis found headline. Okay. So therefore, and look, and I'm saying this so that it's easy for people to comprehend. If you walked past a drugstore today and the wire cage promoting the newspaper outside said Elvis found, you would buy that newspaper. You would go into that shop and buy that newspaper. It's no different online, of course. You're looking for the Elvis found headline. If you don't have that headline that grabs them, then forget it. Like, it's all over. You may as well just give up. You've got to have that Elvis found headline. Now, whether or not that is this cream will minimize your wrinkles by 90% within 10 days or whatever it might be, then of course, we promise that this juice does not, well, it's a beauty. I saw it some time ago. It was a funny one. It said something like, despite rumors, we promise this juice does not enhance sexual pleasure. So you're going to buy that one. That's an Elvis. Yeah, I'd buy that. I'd buy that orange juice. So therefore, it's got to have a big headline, and normally that headline should have a problem solutions to it. So, for example, I see so many people out there, particularly online, with their advertisements whereby they don't have the big, grab you headline, and they don't have a problem solution sub-headline quickly. And so the big headline would be voted number one restaurant in New York. Okay. Now, the thing is that you can go out and do that survey yourself. You can ask people, do they think that your restaurant is the number one restaurant in New York? And if the majority of them say yes, then there's nothing wrong with you. You can put a little asterisk against it if you want. Voted, you haven't put the sample size, voted number one restaurant in New York. And then underneath that, there would be a subline, and that is that if you love steak and haven't been able to find it, welcome to the home of steak. Problem, solution. And you'll notice that a lot of the wrinkle cream companies, a lot of the weight loss companies will live with the problem solution. That is, are you overweight and not feeling good about yourself? Come on my diet program, and within 4 weeks, you'll look like a supermodel. Problem, solution. And direct response actually, Mark, has 5 components. Number one, highlight their problem. Number two, aggravate their problem. So that's, are you overweight, not feeling good about yourself? Aggravate the problem. Do you know that summer's just around the corner? Do you want to look good in your swimsuit? Number three, provide the solution. Come onto this program and you'll lose X pounds within X number of days. Then number 4, very important, proof, which is normally testimonials. I got on the program and I lost so much weight. And then number 5, a strong CTA, which is call to action. Okay, so basically, if you take those 5 components, problem, aggravate problem, provide solution, provide proof, and then CTA, call to action, if you want to put it down into 2 things, problem, solution. Give them their problem and you provide them with your solution.
So we talked about direct marketing. We talked about the components, the tactical elements that comprise of direct marketing. Let's talk about storytelling because now this becomes more of an art form as opposed to a tactical skill. How do you go about helping businesses strengthen their customer loyalty through the storytelling aspect of this? Because you're a master at that.
Yeah, thank you. My best friend, ChatGP,
Your best friend
and
is my best friend. Look at that. We did that.
we're the same best friend. Yeah. I'm just worried. I'm really worried, Mark, that some of my clients will wake up to the fact that the copy they're patting me on the back for comes from a robot. Yeah, look, and all jokes aside, if you're not using it, then you have to use it these days because it makes life so much faster than ever before. I'm not saying that it writes copy that much better than I would have written it myself. But boy, is it fast compared to me sitting up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And really, frankly, my clients don't care where the copy comes from, as long as I'm the one that's actually crafting it, whether it be with ChatGPT or not. But as long as I'm the one crafting it, they don't have to do it and they're getting the results. They don't care if I cheat. Like at school, if you got caught cheating, of course, you got a slap. Back in my era, you did. Yeah. These days, if that happened, you'd be in jail for 10 years. Yeah. But yeah, really, cheating these days with ChatGPT is the way to go. In terms of storytelling, again, I have to say that my influence has been through people like Disney and Spielberg and George Lucas. They're master storytellers. I'm certainly not in that league. Although I think I've told my kids, they're grown up now, but when they were young, I'm sure I told them about dinosaurs. So maybe I am in the Spielberg league. Yeah. It's all about taking them through a journey that if they come onto your business through a direct response offer, and that is you've given them a reward or a gift for something, then what you want to do is ensure if you get their data, okay, if you get their details, that you communicate with them regularly and in a storytelling fashion. And I have a client that provides swimming pools, but also swimming pool apparatus. So we're talking slides and we're talking basketball rings and all sorts of tennis court across your pool. The moment that they buy his $25,000 or $35,000 pool, he creates a relationship with them so that every 6 months they're buying something for the next season. And whether that happens to be a basketball ring, by the way, the basketball ring, I was only talking to him yesterday, the basketball rings that he sells for swimming pools, $1,600. Okay, so therefore they're not just these little blow up things you see in the Kmart. And so I said to him yesterday, are you continuing the formula that we gave you? And he said, yep, I'm not going to from it. And essentially what that is that once every 3 weeks, an email goes out, sometimes a text message, but an email goes out telling a story about someone else who's been using his basketball ring product, or someone else who's been using his tennis court that goes across the pool, or someone else has been using his floating devices and so on and so forth. And by telling that story, then someone who has 2 children, just like that story had 2 children, invariably contacts him and says, listen, I want my kids to enjoy that sort of fun in the swimming pool as well. The big thing for him is water slides. The moment that they have a pool, he just knows that they're going to need a water slide. And of course, the water slides are $4,000 and $5,000 and $6,000 and $7,000, $10,000. And the way that we've done the story there is I've changed his website from being a pretty boring website that just had pictures of swimming pools and slides, now to be a website that looks like a water world from Disney. So it basically tells you can imagine beautiful water slides with kids coming on video down into the pool. And the big headline says, have a water theme park. Imagine how jealous your neighbors will be when you've got a water theme park in your backyard.
You brought up an excellent point. While there's so many business that is constantly focused on leads to be able to acquire new customers, a lot of businesses are forgetting about the money you can get out of customer retention, the lifetime value of a customer that can increase by selling additional products. What are some of these other strategies that you utilize with your clients? We talked about storytelling. Is there anything else that you utilize to be able to increase that LTV for a client?
Yeah, there's one that we've packaged together. What happens, Mark? The evil side of me is that if we have a client that is willing to be a guinea pig so that we can test one of these crazy, stupid ideas that I've got and it works, then I just go, hallelujah, we can then package that together and rinse and repeat for other clients. Okay. And a client some time ago had an aluminium fence business, and you guys pronounce that aluminum fence, right? And so therefore his target audience were 35, 40-year-old homes that had a falling down paling fence. And he said, look, Facebook's not working for me. And I had a look at why it wasn't working. He was showing a picture of an aluminum fence, which I don't think would give anyone hard nipples. It was just a picture of an aluminum fence, for goodness sake. And he said that the company was founded in 1930, and it was his father and grandfather. He would have just bored everyone on Facebook to death. And I said, look, you've got a bad ad here. You're talking about the features, not the benefits. You want to talk about the benefits, because if features sold, then a weight loss company would just show on Facebook a picture of a bowl of rice. They don't. They say, are you overweight and want to look like a supermodel? They talk about the benefits, not the features. And so that's what we did. We took it over and we got 6 months months worth of leads for him in 3 days on Facebook by simply running the ugliest back fence in Australia contest on Facebook. And we zeroed in on all of the zip codes that had older homes, 30-year-old, 40-year-old homes. And obviously they're the homes that more likely had a back fence that was falling over. And we just said to them, take a photo of your ugly back fence and post it on our page, and you're in the chance to win an aluminum fence makeover worth $5,000. Not only did they glow in the dark by entering the contest, they took a photo of their bad fence and gave it to you. You don't get much hotter lead than that. He got 6 months worth of leads in 3 days. We spent $702 and he got 6 months worth of leads. So all he does now is rinse and repeat. So that gave me an idea to do that with just about any business. So what we do now is we have a Facebook ad contest formula that we give businesses. And what we do is that we just say to them, look, give away your product or service as the prize. If you're giving away a landscaping service as a prize on Facebook, can you imagine anyone who enters that contest wants landscaping? If you live in an apartment, you're not going to want landscaping. So not only is it a pure gold list, but they're raising their hand at this particular point of time saying, I want landscaping. So what happens is that you then can contact them by text or email or phone and say, look, good news and some bad news. The bad news is you didn't win the contest. Good news is we have a special landscaping deal this week. If you get in by Friday, we'll give it to you and we'll give you a free vacation. As we have an association with a vacation company that gives us $1,000 vacations for $50. So we give the vacation to him. He says, get my landscaping done this week and we'll give you a shut the gate. It's all over. You've got the hottest lead in town purely and simply via a contest on Facebook or Instagram. Oh, I've got to tell you this, Mark. This is me really showing off because we've found that some clients get 1 million leads and then they complain to us that they can't, I can't keep up. I can't get to them. I go, oh, gosh, you idiot. Here we are. We've given you 3,000 leads from this contest and you're complaining that you can't get to them. So now we have a robot ring them up. So what happens is that when the contest entries come in, we make sure that no matter how long they're running it over Facebook, there's a weekly draw. So every Friday, that week's entries, one gets drawn out, which means the others have lost, which means they can be contacted on the Monday. We now have an AI agent ring them. Sounds like a human, of course. And the robot just basically says to them, what I gave you before, good news and some bad news, you didn't win, but the good news is, we've got a special deal and we'll give you a free vacation if you buy it this week. The numbers are off the planet. I'm going to visit one today and he owns a business for equipment for seniors. So they're the walking frames with wheels on them and they're $1,000, $2,000 each. He ran a contest just last week. He started on Monday. He said, we zeroed in on the seniors, of course, on Facebook. And we just said, look, would you like to win a wheelie walker, right? This one travels fast, I think 1 mile an hour, right? Would you like to win a wheelie walker? Just give us your details. So they click the ad and go through and give the details. And he gave away one on Friday. Just last week, he got 2 leads from this contest, all seniors or children of seniors, people in their 40s or 50s, wanting to win a wheelie walker, 602 leads at 2 cents a lead. He is a very happy camper because the robot now is going to be ringing those people on Monday and asking them would they like to buy the special deal because they didn't win.
When we're hearing the story of John Dwyer, we're talking about the brilliant mind he has, talking about businesses that he has built, grow, all the wonderful things he has done for Disney and many other places. Let's talk about the entrepreneurial journey a little bit. Has it been smooth and coasting the whole time, or were there ups and downs?
No, it's been very smooth. I've never made a mistake. Smooth, not a chance. Yeah, I think there's a reason why I love the roller coaster rides when I go to a theme park because they mirror my career and any entrepreneur's career. I know your story too, Mark. It's nobody who becomes an entrepreneur is on the merry-go-round. They're on the roller coaster. And yeah, ours has had its ups and downs. And of course, I felt very bad when it was the odd down financially and you've got a whole bunch of children. When you've got 6 children and you're raising the Von Trapp family, to lose a couple of million in 1 week is not good fun. Yeah, we've had that. And I know I speak for every entrepreneur. There's no good feeling sorry for yourself. You've just got to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and go again. And when people say to me, look, when you've had those things, there was a guy working for me on one occasion that made a big mistake. It was a printing mistake on bubblegum cards, trading cards, and we lost 2.2 million in 1 week and lost our house and all the stuff that goes with it. And when asked, what do you do when that happens? Normally I say, there's no magic wand. You just go to bed at midnight and get up at 5 a.m. That's what you do. You just put in some extra hours and you've got to pick yourself up again. And as I said, I think at the beginning of this interview, Mark, persistence beats intelligence. You've just got to hang in there.
Were you always this person, even when you were a kid, that when things went wrong, you were just persistent with it? Or was it a skill that you developed over time?
I think a skill. We could all be cute and fuzzy and say, oh, yes, I was born this way. I was the cheeky guy. I went to a Catholic school, a De La Salle Catholic school. And back in the day when the leather strap could be used. And I think I put my hand out like that to get 6 of the best because I was the cheeky guy in the classroom. I remember the De La Salle brothers would say to me, even at the beginning of whatever class it was, Dwyer, get outside. I did nothing. They said, we know you did nothing, but I know you're going to do something. I said, get outside. Yeah, I had a reputation for being a bit of a scoundrel. But yeah, look, I think it just comes more so in business because everybody who would be listening to this who owns or manages a business you absolutely know there is no recipe that is foolproof. Even the stuff that I'm going through today, there's nothing that's foolproof because there are all sorts of variables. When people say to me, look, can I guarantee this vacation concept that we have whereby we provide businesses with vouchers where people can go away on vacation for 3 or 4 days. It's worth $1,000, but we give it to them for dollars because we've got the relationship with the travel company. People say to me, can you guarantee that it would work? You've done this with Seinfeld and the bank down under and so forth. For my landscaping business, can you guarantee that the free vacation offer will work? And I say, no, I can't. We've got the statistics to show that most of the time it works, but you could be wearing an ankle bracelet. I don't know. You might have a bad landscaping business. So therefore, there's all sorts of variables that you cannot guarantee that it will work. But I always look upon anyone that I meet for the first time, their history. Their history normally can predict the future. There's some anomalies there, but most of the time, if you look at someone's history, then you can pretty much bet that the future might look something like that. And I must say that anyone who I do joint ventures with these days, and that's a smart move because it brings more intelligence to the table. The first thing I do is go onto their social media and have a look at their history. And if they've got a history of getting back up off the floor, then for me, that's a great partner.
Talked about persistence, not only a great characteristic to have in a personality to be able to continue to move forward, both in marketing and sales. It's almost impossible to be successful without being persistent. Yep. The story where you got Jerry Seinfeld as a spokesperson, the person hearing this on the podcast is like, oh, my business would have been successful if I had Jerry Seinfeld in the heydays of Seinfeld to sign up. Tell us a little bit about what you had to do to get him to do this campaign.
Yeah, look, it truly is a persistence thing, me being a pain in the ass. What happened, in fact, I asked him when I first met him in New York and we set up the whole idea for the campaign. I said to him in his office, which is overlooking Central Park, I said, Jerry, can I just ask you a question? And he said, yeah, sure. I said, why did you say yes to this? Excuse me, a frog in my throat. And he said, for 2 reasons. I love Australian sense of humour. You guys are a bit cheeky and you take the mickey out of people. So therefore, I do the same thing. So I thought it might be a bit of fun. He said, because your whole campaign was to take the mickey out of the big banks like the Wells Fargo and tell them to get their home loan through a smaller bank, which was the Greater Building Society. He says, I like that sort of humour. I'm used to taking the mickey out of things. And he said, the other reason is I thought if I didn't say yes, you'd never bloody go away. You'd never leave. And it wasn't necessarily persistence to him because getting to him is harder than getting to the Pope, but it was with his manager, George Shapiro, who'd been his manager for 40 odd years. And how it came about was that the bank said to me, look, we've run this get a home loan, get a free vacation campaign now for 3 or 4 years. It's been spectacularly successful. We've picked up a lot of the low-lying fruit, which was basically their target audience, as I mentioned before, were working class. They're going to be plumbers, electricians, truck drivers, people like that. And they said, we would like to see if we can pick up the suits. In other words, the doctors, dentists, the lawyers and barristers. And I said to them, you've mistaken me for David Copperfield, okay? I'm not a magician. You're not going to get a barrister or a doctor or specialist to take the home loan out from a credit union or building society. It's just impossible. And they said, oh, okay. And I said, I don't know what you've been smoking. That is not going to happen. And they said, what can you do? I said, look, what we might be able to do is to get to middle management white collar workers. And let me think about that. So as it's turned out, a friend of mine had been doing some ads in Australia with Billy Connolly, the Scottish comedian. And I said, how did you get Billy Connolly? And he said, oh, pretty much we just said to him, wherever he is in the world, we'll fly a camera crew there, get him to do the ads for us, and we'll just give him 1.5 million. I went, okay. And he said the secret to this is making it easy for them. Oh, okay, righto. So that's what I did. We chased, first of all, I never really watched much of the Seinfeld show. Don't get me wrong, I knew it existed, but I wasn't one of those mad fans. And so therefore we did a survey amongst members and non-members of the Building Society. So it's a few thousand people. Who do you think would be a good spokesperson for the Building Society? So we just didn't jump in and pick Jerry Seinfeld. And up came Robin Williams and Jim Carrey and Jerry Seinfeld and this, that, and the other. I was hoping that a smaller celebrity, like an Australian celebrity, would come up. Guess who came up number 1 and 2? Jerry Seinfeld, Robin Williams, Jim Carrey. I thought, what have I done here? This is so stupid. So we went to bat and I chased George Shapiro, who is his manager in Beverly Hills, for months and months. And it was email after email. And eventually I thought one night I'll just leave a message on his answering machine because I knew that if he rung after hours, I put the best Paul Hogan Crocodile Dundee accent on that you could possibly put on. It was, "G'day, George. It's JD from Australia, mate. I'm just ringing from down under. I've sent a whole bunch of emails and I don't think you probably would have got them. I understand you've got a gatekeeper. Mate, we were just thinking, we thought Jerry would be a fantastic addition to our marketing camp, blah, blah, blah." So it was just ridiculous. It was so Crocodile Dundee. Guess who I get a call from the next morning? A lady who says, "Look, my name is Emma. I work for George Shapiro. I've got him on the line. He wants to talk to you." I'm thinking it's one of my friends taking the you know what out of me. So when he came on, I didn't believe it was him. And anyway, he said, "Yeah," he said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "What's that?" He said, "The Greater Building Society, what does it build?" I then realized it was the real deal. And we got on like a house on fire. He only passed away, I think, last year, and a lovely guy and very cheeky. So we got on very well because our personalities matched. And he said, "Look, leave it with me. I'll put it to Jerry." And he put it to Jerry, and Jerry said yes. I couldn't believe it. The biggest comedian in the world said yes to this relatively modest sized bank down under. And so, yeah, we flew over. I went backwards and forth to New York for 3 years doing the commercials. And what we did is that we made it easy for Jerry because he lives in the Hamptons in New York. We found a little country town called Cedarhurst, which was not far from where he lived. And there was an empty delicatessen there, which we basically created a Greater Building Society branch. When you're dealing with Seinfeld, everything has to be eye for detail. So it was right down to the door opening, and there was the counter inside, everything, right? And Jerry stood outside the supposed Greater Building Society and told jokes and basically talked about the free vacation. And when that hit the airwaves in Australia, the free publicity we got on 60 Minutes and the Today shows and all of the radio shows, everyone just came out of the woodwork because we're talking royalty, comic royalty, has just put his name to an advertising campaign. And the only other two campaigns he's ever done were for American Express and Microsoft. And the Greater Building Society was a little bit smaller than, yeah, it was a bit of a curve.
Well, you also produced a television show, Dreams Can Come True. What was the inspiration behind the show and what was the show about?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Mark. It's a nice story, and I'll try and make it quick. When I had this big kick in the guts, where our company had gone into, and this is in the 90s, our company had gone into producing trading cards. And so in America, you guys everyone grows up with their basketball cards and all their gridiron cards. And of course, the movies that would come out, then you get bubblegum cards at the drugstore, and it came out. And so we took over the licenses for a lot of that in Australia, and we would do bubblegum cards for the Batman movie or for Jurassic Park or for Beauty and the Beast and so forth. And on one of these particular occasions, I was visiting Disney in Los Angeles to get a license for the next movie. And I forget the name of the movie. Let's say it was The Little Mermaid. My general manager, I had 20 people working for me because we were doing quite a number of millions of dollars worth of turnover at that time with these trading card products. And it's a perfect product, by the way, because when the kids get the first trading card pack, they're on a habit. It's basically, they're almost like slot machines. You've got to get the next packet and the next packet and the next packet to collect the whole set of 200 cards. So it's a brilliant product from a repetitive trade point of view. Anyways, it's turned out whilst I was away, there was a big printing mistake that my general manager made, and we lost 2.2 million in a week. And I came back from America with him with tears in his eyes at the airport saying I've made a big mistake. And we lost our house and everything else. And as it turned out, I walked into church one morning. My two little children were going to St. Joseph's Church, and I just said a prayer to the guy upstairs and said, "Look, is there any chance at all I could just get my house back? I don't have to be rich. I just want to put a roof over my children's head. And if you can bless me with this miracle, then I promise that I will pay back. I'll do something that can inspire other people not to give up." And I was hoping that he was listening. And as it turned out, the bank said to me, "Look, we're going to close you up on the 30th of the month." And I had to get rid of half my 20 staff and all that bad stuff that happens when you lose money. And I said to the bank, "Look, I'm pitching for the rugby league license, which would be like getting the gridiron license in America for trading cards. And I knew if I got that, then I'd be home." And they said, "When does the decision get made?" I said, "I don't know. I've been annoying them. And they said, "We'll give you to the end of the month." And this was the 15th of the month. You wouldn't believe it. The guy upstairs is a teaser, because on the day that the bank was coming in, it was a Friday, and it was 5 o'clock. They were going to put locks on the door. At 10 minutes to 5, I get a call from the rugby league decision maker who says, "JD, I've got some news for you." And I went, "Yeah." Now, I'd been ringing him 100 times a day, and we were one of 5 companies pitching for it. And I'm shaking on the phone, and he said, "You've got the license." And I went, "Oh my God, thank you." He said, "On one condition." And I said, "Anything." He said, "You never ring me again for the rest of your life. You are the most annoying bastard I've ever come across," right? And we've become great friends after that because guess what, Mark? In the first year of having that license, because we were marketers, not a bubblegum company, I gave out millions of these cards because they were sent each, for goodness sake, to the newspapers, and the newspapers would say, "Buy the Sunday Telegraph and you get your two free footy cards." And of course, millions of kids would get these cards for free. So there was a Dr. Evil. And of course, then they would pester their parents, "I want to buy a packet of $2 cards at the drugstore." We made that whole $2.2 million back in one football season, and we got back on our feet, and I had to keep my promise to the guy upstairs. So therefore I put together a TV show concept, which was called Dreams Can Come True. And it was all about inspiring all of us to help others who might be needy. And this was all about making dreams come true for needy people. And we pitched it to one of the networks here, and they said yes, with tears rolling down their eyes when they saw the pilot. And we had Steven Spielberg, we had Sylvester Stallone, we had Princess Di, we had Michael Jordan. All of these people come out of the woodwork and help us deliver dreams to people. And I know we're pressed for time, but I want to just highlight one quick dream. And when it came on a Sunday night, it was up against 60 Minutes, and we beat 60 Minutes in the ratings, would you believe? And this one particular dream is folklore. It was a little boy, 15 years of age, was unfortunately had spina bifida. So he was in a wheelchair. And the parish priest contacted us from where he lived, and he said, "Look, this little boy's story is unbelievable because he doesn't have a great future. He tried to commit suicide recently, and fortunately he was not successful, and his friends got him into a wheelchair basketball competition and took his mind off his woes. He became the under 16 most scoring. He scored the most goals in the under 16 Australian wheelchair basketball team. If they scored 50 points, he scored 48 of them, right? And his dream of all dreams is just to get a Michael Jordan autograph. That's all it is. And it was Michael Jordan's last year of playing, whatever that was, in 90, whatever, right? And I said, okay, getting an autograph is too easy. What we'll do is see if we can do a personal meeting. So I faxed in those days to Michael Jordan's office a plea. Is there any chance at all if we brought this little boy over that he might? And we got a call back the next day, a fax back the next day, who said Michael Jordan happened to be walking past the fax machine when your request came in. He picked it out and said, "Make this one happen." So we surprised this little boy at the end of one of his basketball games with the news that he and his dad were flying the following week to Chicago, not only to see Michael Jordan play the night before, but to celebrate the little boy's 15th birthday in the Michael Jordan restaurant in Chicago the next day. And guess who came with the birthday cake out of the kitchen to this little boy's table?
I lost you there for a second. Say that last bit again.
No, sorry. All I was saying is that little boy, we surprised him and took him over to Chicago. And on his 15th birthday, he was in the Michael Jordan restaurant in Chicago. And who comes out of the kitchen singing happy birthday with the birthday cake? Michael Jordan. I've got to say to you, we had some pretty bulky cameramen and soundies. And so everyone was crying. The whole restaurant was just tears down their face. And that came on TV in Australia and broke records on the Sunday night ratings. It broke records that Michael Jordan made this little 15-year-old boy's wheelchair basketball boy dream come true. And yeah, we continued to do that too. People who didn't have houses, we gave them a surprise with a house. People who've not met their relatives because they were overseas, we brought them together. You name it, whatever the dream was, it was never too big. If someone, in one instance, there was a group of Aborigines in the middle of Australia that needed food, and we organised for an Air Force carrier to drop food parcels in the desert in the middle of Australia. So whatever the dream was, there was only 4 or 5 of us that made the TV show. We had to make up credits at the end of all of our friends, because you know how the credits run at the end of a show for 45 seconds. There was only 5 of us. We'd never done this before, so we had no clue. And the other classic was the little boy who was suffering from a skin eating disease, just loved Steven Spielberg because he was a bit of a filmmaker. And we asked, is there any chance that we could take him to meet Steven Spielberg? And Steven Spielberg was making Jurassic 2 or Jurassic 3 in the jungle in the Amazon, and said, if you get him in, we can do it. And as it turned out, on the eve of surprising this little boy that he's going to meet Steven Spielberg, would you believe Spielberg's office rings and says, look, mosquitoes are the size of birds in the Amazon jungle. Our insurance won't let you bring a little boy in with a skin-eating disease. It's too dangerous. And went, oh my God. And they said, but Mr. Spielberg said that he can organise for your little boy to still be surprised, but to meet a friend of his. And we thought, oh God, that'd be like someone wanting to meet me and they get to meet my wife. Hey, let me check that she's here. No, she's not here. She never heard that. And we thought, oh, that's a downer. Guess who his friend was? George Lucas, Skywalker Ranch in San Francisco. So the little boy went to George Lucas, not Spielberg. It was just the best time of our lives. And I thank the big guy upstairs because he gave me the comeback and made me resilient to losing all of this money and making a comeback. And I'm just so thankful that he also gave me the opportunity to pay back big time.
John, your story is not only just of resilience, not only just of showing how good a person you are from heart, but also of a acute businessman who is helping other businesses navigate the turbulent times that we live in. It's becoming more and more difficult for businesses to stand out, and a lot of small businesses are unable to compete with the big companies because they're eating up all the marketing dollars. You are there showing people that true creativity and experience does stand value. And while the small businesses may not have the top dollar, when they put the hard work in, when they are creative, when they do the proper testing, they can still win. So it's been such a pleasure having you on the show, getting a peek into the mindset of a true champion marketer, how he goes about doing things, how he gets back up when he falls down on the ground. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Tell our audience a little bit about how they can contact you, how they can work with you, how they can learn from you and avail from you.
Thank you, Mark, but I'm so wealthy and rich and successful, I don't need to give out any contact detail. Hang on, I can hear my wife in the background. Give out your email address. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Mark, and I appreciate the opportunity to give anyone my contact details. If you do need a hand in building sales and you'd like some marketing help, I'll give you my personal email address. It's john@theinstituteofwow.com. So that's a pretty easy one, john@theinstituteofwow.com. And I do have, and our website, of course, is theinstituteofwow.com. But I do have a special gift, Mark, and I think I probably teased you with this before. Those watching on video will see that this is a book that I wrote called the Wow Manifesto. And for those of you listening who are not watching it on video, then this is the size of a tabloid newspaper. And it's got your gold tip, and it's basically 300 pages of direct response marketing ideas that have worked. So over the last 15 or 20 years, I've chronicled all of the campaigns that worked. I didn't put the ones in there that didn't work, Mark. I thought I'd leave them out. I thought I'd leave them out. And this here as a book, because it's leather bound and gold tipped edges, because I'm an idiot, of course, if you're going to write it. Someone said to me, you've got to write a book. And so therefore I wrote a little one called the Avalanche Leads Formula. So that was reasonably successful. And then I thought, if I'm going to write another one, why don't I be a complete moron, a complete idiot outside the square, and make sure that this is the biggest marketing book of all time. It's the size of an atlas. And although I'm building it up, but yeah, it really, I think, deserves a place in your digital library, because I can't give you the real McCoy because that's $420 to print per book. That's how big it is. But I certainly can give you the digital version. So therefore, if you'd like to grab that, then all you do is just simply go to wowmanifesto.com/gift, as in Christmas gift. Okay, so that's wowmanifesto.com/gift, and you will have a swipe file from heaven, because there's case study after case study. As I said, I left out the ones that didn't work.
Thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and I hope to talk to you soon.
All the best, Mark. Thank you.